If you've been around running for a hot minute, you've probably heard about Zone 2 running, where you run slower and it actually makes you faster. This is so legit that study after study after study after study confirms that this is the case for beginners, advanced athletes, runners, triathletes, 5K runners, and ultramarathoners. But the problem is that people take this too far and think that low heart rate running is the single key to unlocking better health and performance. Now, I don't think that that's entirely wrong, but it's not so far the case that Zone 2 running is all you need to do. What is the key is how low heart rate running works together with other training methods that creates that 1 + 1 = 3 effect, where individually each workout doesn't really help, but together they create great performances. So yes, while 70 to 80% of your total training time should be spent in your low intensity training zones, there are critical times that you should abandon your heart rate metrics that we'll get into today. What's up, motivators? My name is Taren, and when ordinary people want to accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports, they use motive training plans. Let's do it. Let's dive right into these 8 major areas where people should abandon low heart rate running in favor of either another workout or a more intense run, or maybe just ditching their heart rate altogether. The first 3 scenarios where you should abandon low heart rate runs in favor of other types of workouts are when you are training more than once per week. If you are watching this video, odds are that you are a serious athlete, or at least aspiring to be a serious athlete, in which case you are probably doing more than one workout per week. And if that's the case, a lot of those workouts should actually not be dictated by heart rate. The first scenario is if you are running twice per week, but no more. In that case, yes, you should do one low, long heart rate run every single week, but you should do that in conjunction with the other run being a very intense run. So you can see that a training plan that is built in our app, where we have run training plans that can go as low as just 2 workouts per week. One of the workouts is a low intensity long run, the other one is a high intensity fast run. You see, it's the combination of the high density of mitochondria that gets built with that low intensity long run, and then teaching that mitochondria how to work really well in the intense run that creates that 1 + 1 = 3 effect. The second scenario is if you're working out 3 times per week. A lot of runners just getting into the sport will train just 3 times per week. Well, in this case, you'll have that one low intensity long run per week. The second run should be that intense run that we talked about in point number 1, but the third run should be a more tempo-focused workout, where the intense run focuses on intervals of 15 seconds up to about 8 minutes. A tempo workout should feature intervals of about 8 minutes, roughly up to 60 minutes. This is in kind of the zone 3 moderate intensity kind of effort level, where you're teaching your body how to go fast for a long period of time. This tends to be roughly where a lot of people will race, and this is what develops that comfort at race pace, and that comfort going fast for a long period of time. It bridges the gap between the long, low intensity run and the very high intensity fast run. So as you can see, a training plan in our app that has 3 runs per week is built around 1 long, low intensity run, 1 high intensity run, and then 1 tempo steady run in the middle of the week. And the third and final scenario is if you are working out 4 or more times per week. You might think that the 4th workout per week would be another additional run. In this case, you should abandon the low intensity run and the runs altogether and actually add in a strength session. Strength training is a lot like low intensity training, where there are study after study after study after study confirming that strength training is a massive performance enhancer to all of endurance training. That's why if you're training 4 times per week, you should still abandon that low intensity session in favor of a strength training session. What you can see in our app on the screen now is if you have a week based around 4 workouts per week, the 4th workout that you add is a 30-minute strength session. Moving on from the weekly schedule, the 4th scenario is as we get closer and closer to races. In the final 10 weeks before a race, a lot of your running comes in from the bookends of very slow or very fast and more into that middle tempo run area. What happens is the intervals during the intense run of the week get a little bit longer, closer to tempo based. The tempo runs get even more long, close to 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And then Even in long runs towards the end of a long run, when you're most tired at the end of a week, we add in some tempo runs. You can see some examples of these workouts that are very close to a race in our run training plans. Doing so gets more and more specific to the task that you have to accomplish on race day. Going into that race, being comfortable, holding a fast pace for a long period of time, and then holding that fast pace as your legs get tired. The fifth instance where you would want to abandon that zone 2 running is if you are really incredibly smashed up and you just need a rest, but you are still the type of person that likes to get out the door and do something. Now in that case, we're going to abandon a zone 2 run, and we're actually going to recommend a zone 1 run. It might be almost impossible for you to do a zone 1 run and keep your heart rate in that zone 1, but you can go out and turn this into a zone run hike or a zone run walk run. What this is going to do for the people who like to get out and like to feel those endorphins of exercise and still want to get out but need a very significant rest is it's going to keep your heart rate low enough that you don't build up a lot of lactic acid. And because you're barely building up any lactic acid that sits in your body at all, your stress response will be quite low, and more than anything, it'll just stimulate a little bit of blood flow, making you feel a little bit better. The sixth time that you would abandon zone 2 running is if you are just starting out with zone 2 work. Running at zone 2 is very, very difficult for beginner runners or people that have taken a long break from running. Your heart rate will tend to be very high. But because this workout is titled a zone 2 run, people struggle thinking that the entire workout needs to be a zone 2 run. But instead, you can turn this into a zone 2 hike and get just as much of the benefit because you're spending the right amount of time in the right heart rate zone. So let's say you have a 60 or 90 minute workout out there. You can see that from a lot of the workouts that we have in our app, we actually encourage people to get out onto the trails, creating a lot of forced walk breaks. As you're going on steeper and shallower hills, you walk a lot, bringing your heart rate down naturally, making it a lot easier to spend that 60 to 90 minutes in that zone 2 heart rate. But you might be thinking, I'm not running. This is entirely okay because physiologically, you are spending the right amount of time on your feet creating that body durability that you need to be out there for the period of time that you need to prepare for in your race. The seventh instance where you would want to abandon zone 2 heart rate running is for a lot of triathletes who are doing brick sessions after the bike. Our training app recommends 1 or 2 brick sessions where you go for a run after a bike ride. In a lot of cases, this is not going to be done at a zone 2 heart rate level because your heart rate is already quite high from the bike workout that it's going to be almost impossible to run in a zone 2 heart rate. Instead, you can run at a zone 2 pace. Very rarely when you look at the brick workouts that are in our triathlon training plans in our app, will you have a heart rate dictated zone 2 run. If anything, it will be a zone 2 pace because we recognize that a good training plan has to be achievable for most people. Let's run at a zone 2 pace in this instance. The last scenario is during times like the off season, after races when you're recovering, cool downs at the end of the run, where you aren't in a very dedicated training time in your season. Just run easy, have fun without stress. You can leave your heart rate monitor at home, you can leave your watch at home, and just run with what feels easy. We don't have to beat ourselves down by being a slave to a laptop on our wrist that is constantly telling us the heart rate and think that year round, that has to dictate every single run and strip all of the fun out of it. Of course, if you enjoy looking at your watch and monitoring that heart rate, go for it. But most people have a hard time doing this, so pick those times of the year during the off season, after races when you're recovering, or at cool downs at the end of the run where you just run easy and enjoy yourself. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want more weekly training tips designed specifically to help ordinary people like you accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports. Hit the notification bell to not miss out on videos when they come out. And finally, click the video on the screen if you want our full guide on how to set up and then perform your Zone 2 running correctly with a short minute video that'll help make sure that you're doing it as well as you possibly can. Later, motivators.